Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Uncorked podcast. It is your host, Brian, and I am back with my brother, Kevin. And it's been a little while since we've gotten a chance to talk to you all. I think last spring was probably the last time we did one of these, but took the summer off, and it didn't necessarily mean we took whiskey off, but it's
Mhm.
picking back up again. We're now kind of at the official end of summer here. I think, was it today? Was it yesterday? Something like that.
Today's the first day of fall,
Today's the first day of fall.
as of recording.
Right. So yeah, we are recording on Sunday, the 22nd here, and looking forward to kind of getting back into whiskey season. And I've been spending my summer trying to drink and finish bottles. It's just
Yep.
so I haven't opened a ton of new stuff, although that's changed in the last couple of weeks for some of the reviews and that sort of thing. But how have you been this summer, Kevin? And what are you drinking? And yeah, how's your whiskey summer been?
Yeah, I would say it was good. Maybe a little bit later on the drinking part, but definitely still enjoying it when I did.
Good to hear. Good to hear. You drinking anything good today?
I am. Um, so I've got a few sort of. I know we're going to be talking about the OSWAs in a little bit. I've got a few OSWA inspired drams, kind of off to the side here. Um, Only one of them is actually in the OSWAs, but they're either, and we'll talk about them later, about why I picked a couple of them. But the thing I've poured right now is actually, I would say, the highlights of what I have tried from this that I picked up this summer. I cracked it open pretty quickly because I really wanted to try it, and it has been a shocking impress. I expected to not like it. I'll be honest with you, but I wanted to give it a shot, and it has been a wonderful surprise. If we want to get into
Excellent.
that right away, if we want to,
Yeah, yeah. Why not?
sure. So
Do it.
So this line came out. So at least it arrived in America 2 months ago, maybe, and it was from a brand that is widely despised amongst the whiskey enthusiasts.
Uh,
But they did release a line of non-chill filtered, no added color whiskeys that is incredibly unusual for them. And I saw this at Binny's, and it was expensive. I mean, definitely more than what most people would be willing to pay, but it was still kind of within. It was just low enough where I was willing to consider it, and I picked it up. So this is the Dalmore Select Edition from 2008. So this is 15 years old,
oh wow. Okay.
and you can tell that I don't think maybe in a long time ago, but when was the last time you saw a official bottle of Dalmore that was that light?
Yeah, yeah,
So
yeah. Outside of their luminary expression or whatever they call it, yeah, that one I think
yep,
is light, but that's also
and
non-chill filtered natural color stuff like
yeah,
that.
yeah. So I mean, I picked it up. I mean, I think it was like 180 or something at Benny's for 15 years. Again, I know that that's high, but
Yeah,
um,
it's up there. Although I mean, it's kind of in the 18-year range,
yeah.
the upper 18-year
So
range, I suppose. Yeah.
so for a Dalmore, it could have been higher. um, but anyways, the first time I drank this, it was like drinking Brookies, which are like those brownie chocolate chip cookie mashups.
Oh, right. Yeah.
And not even just the flavor, like the mouthfeel, the texture, like it was just this. It was just absolutely incredibly delicious, and I was going into it kind of expecting to hate it, but the
Right.
reason I bought it is because I like exploring all sorts of different distilleries. I've got Glenlawsie, and I've got all the obscure ones you'd never heard of on the shelf, and
Right.
I've never had very many Dalmores. Um, there was one that was okay from SMWS, but it was like 64% or something like that in a single barrel. Um, so I jumped on this opportunity, and it has blown me away so far. Like I said, I'm maybe 3 or 4 drams into this now, but um, it's it's actually kind of incredible. So I've been enjoying it a lot.
Awesome. Awesome. Yeah, it's always fun when you take a stab at a distillery that you haven't had before or whatnot, and it surprises you. I've definitely had those with some independent bottlings, but
Mm,
similar to you, right? I'd like to be well versed in every single distillery that's out there, which is hard.
It's a
Uh,
very hard. Like I'm still a long ways away, and I've been
yeah,
making an effort.
especially just given that for us to get some of those like lesser known distilleries, you either you have like one option, like, and you have to jump on it because who knows when the next time you'll see one,
Yep.
or you have to kind of go overseas to get them, that sort of thing. So, uh, but yeah, I could tell from my little dabble into Dalmore that there was the opportunity for them to make some pretty solid whiskey. Although I don't think I've had one that has blown me away yet. But you can tell, I think through the same SMWS bottling that you're talking about, that their spirit is good, and they
Yeah.
do. I do believe they use pretty good casks most of the time. So it's just a
Yeah.
matter of presentation and the blending and what who they're trying to attract as their drinker. But it's awesome that Dalmore can make good whiskey and that they actually are, that we're getting at least an option from them.
Yeah. I mean, they still definitely make you pay for it, but at least
Yeah.
at least it's not paying and junk. At least it's
Right.
at least this one is pretty tasty stuff. How about you? Have you found any gems this summer?
Let's see. I definitely have. Like I said, I haven't opened a ton of new stuff over the warmer summer months. And similar to you, I dabble in cocktails here and there, or we're
Okay.
in SoCal, so there's some good craft brewery options and that sort of thing. So, um, definitely, probably not as nerding out over the course of the summer, especially it's like going through bottles I know pretty well when I am drinking whiskey and doing doing the reviews for the channel and keeping up with that stuff. Um, it hasn't provided a ton of opportunities, but there have been a couple. One of which I did review for the channel, and that would be the new Lefroy Carchus. That was probably
Oh yeah,
the best like official
that's
bottling.
a good bottle too.
That yeah, probably definitely the best like official bottling that I opened and tried for the first time over the summer, and then picked up at Binny's as well that single cask of Loch Lomond, uh,
Mm.
11-year-old this one year, and I'd heard great things about Loch Lomond, and especially when they use the Chardonnay casks. Aquavite, Roy at Aquavite talks about them a lot. He's done several picks, which I now have a couple of, but some single barrels. Sorry, forget that not everybody calls them, store picks, so they might not know what I mean when I say. He did
Right.
a couple single barrels again this year, and they were both Loch Lomans. But yeah, this one, I don't know if it's the Chardonnay yeast, but as soon as I opened it, I think I messaged you and was like, "Hey, if you're ever at Benny's and they have another one of these, please
Grab a
give me
bag.
one."
Yeah.
Because, yeah, just the bright, crisp, fizzy fruit, which is what I've always heard about Loch Lomond, particularly with when they dabble in the Chardonnay yeast. Uh, it's just, especially for a summer whiskey, was fantastic, and definitely has inspired me to try some more Loch Lomans. In fact, although we were talking, it's been kinda hard to find Loch Lomans here in the States lately, so, you were
Yeah.
able to
At least anything like you can still find like the bottom shelf.
Yeah, yeah,
Anything
like
reasonable.
yeah, uh, but you were able to grab me an 18-year-old Loch
Yep.
Lomond
That was
from
heavily discounted even.
heavily discounted,
It was
what was it, like $70 or
70,
something?
but it was 69.99. Yeah.
Yeah, and
For a
then
Loch Lomond 18.
I, I do have a 12 on the way because I was buying myself my Christmas present from Tanya. 'Cause
Mhm.
I needed some bottles for reviews that I couldn't find here. I was like, "Well, I don't wanna order a bunch of, like, 60, $70 bottles of whiskey that should be 60 or $70 here and then pay to have them shipped over here."
Yeah.
So I had to look for an excuse to do that, and luckily, they had some 1996 Ben Nevis in stock, so
Okay. They
so
that always helps.
she's always pretty much like, "Yeah, find a bottle you want." whatever. Makes it easier for her.
Yeah.
She
Yeah, you'd rather you pick out one than her,
Yeah, exactly.
huh?
So, um, yeah, I
You pick
usually
out
get
the
something
prettiest
nice
one.
for the house. Since my birthday's close too, it's uh depending on how nice she is, it's either one or both. But uh, hopefully she's nice this year. Wink, wink, wink. But yeah, so I had that's how I had to get a bottle of Loch Lomond 12 because like it's literally hasn't been on the shelf here. Of course, as soon as it arrives on my doorstep, though, like every store in the
Yeah,
area will have it for you know
half the
a third
price.
less than what I ended up having to pay for it. The same thing with Glencadam, but so yeah, Loch Lomond. That
Yeah.
definitely is like yep, that solidifies it. I need to drink more Loch Lomond, and I've tried the 12 and the 14 from Roy at your place. You opened yours up, and yeah, that 12 was
Oh,
really
this is
good.
insane.
Yeah. The 14 was good as well, but the 12, like, side by side, at least, it was like, "Oh, the this one's
The neck pours anyway. The
this
neck
one
pours.
yeah, this one's the one."
Yep.
But, yeah, I have both of those. So those are probably the 2 bottles that I've opened, this summer outside of things that well, I reviewed the Lafroig, obviously, but, the Lloyd Corey Cravey uh was another pickup recently that was open that by the time this is live, there'll be a review of that. It's all done. I just need to upload it after this for the channel tomorrow.
All right.
Uh,
Cool.
but yeah, another great one.
Forward to it.
Another. I don't want to say
I'll
that
just
one was a surprise. I don't want to say it was a surprise because it's by the same people that do the Loch Ranza distillery in Isle of Arran. So it's not a surprise that it was good, but yeah, that one they're knocking it out of the park with 4-year-old whiskey, and that's not something I've said very often.
surprised to me that it was so
Were you really
good.
surprised? Oh, because you don't like Aaron. That's what you're saying.
Not that I
Yeah,
don't like it. I don't like it as much as everybody else. But
fair
yeah,
enough. That's right. I didn't catch that at first, but yeah, you are not quite the Aaron lover as everyone else seems to be. But
that's true.
that's fine. Anything else fun whiskey related you did this summer? Or like I know we
Not
got
really.
we got to meet up a month or so ago. We did our little trip down to Chicago.
Yep.
Had some good luck with particularly with Campbelltown whiskeys, and
Yep.
so I was able to grab a bottle
At
of the new
the
12. And
on our way out of the last store, we both spotted the Springbank 12 cask strength.
yeah, well, you
So,
did. Yeah, I probably
yeah,
walked
but
past it, but
we were both able to get.
we were able to get one
But
for as good of a price as you're going to get in the U.S. So that was
yeah, we were
nice.
offered some Weller store pick.
Yeah, we
We,
had a good
we,
look
we
at that. That's right. We got some Weller
pretty nice.
bottles, and I think
Sure.
we left some Eagle Rare and some other picks behind just because it was I got enough
Mhm.
of that stuff. But yeah, and I got even though I said I wasn't going to buy this year's Kilkerran 8 sherry cask, I bought one. It was because when it's sitting right in front of you, staring at you in the face, it's
Hard.
tough.
It can be hard.
Yeah. So yeah, I don't know. I'm still debating whether I should open the new 12 and review it, just because like since I'm a sicko and I already have like 2 versions of the 12-year open. Do I need to have 3 open? But we'll see.
You can do one of those ultimate shootout episodes.
Yeah, I know, but
Scotch
that's
test
silly.
dummies do sometimes.
But I don't know.
They're
Like you can't guarantee like a consistent flow of Springbank 12 without going to auctions and stuff like that. So
true.
like, man, I go through my Springbank slowly enough as it is that if I have 3 open, like I really have to pick up the pace on those. But we'll see. We'll see how it goes. That's why I wasn't going to buy the Kilkerran, is because I just had a backlog of like the versions from the last couple of years. So uh, it's
I
definitely
get it. I
first
get it.
world problems,
Yeah.
but yeah, that was a good trip. We got to stop at Delilah's and do our thing there. Had some nice drams. while we were
Mhm.
there. You'll be here in just a couple weeks, and I'll be
Sweet.
hosting, doing the same thing. So yeah, should be some good times coming up as well. But with that, why don't we transition into our main topic, which as you mentioned earlier, the OSWA
Mhm.
Awards, the online Scotch Whisky Awards, which they are now in their fourth year. Who aren't familiar with these are kind of awards that are run by Roy at Aquavite and Ralphie from Ralphie.com, or I believe now the Whiskey Bothy is his channel name.
Mhm.
And they had this idea to do a online kind of crowdsourced whiskey awards to identify bottles and distilleries and other whiskey related things, companies that uh, we all love, and get everyone to vote on things in a unique nomination process and try to kind of counter some of these major awards that we all know are kind of pay to play, pay to win.
Yeah, they
Uh,
want to keep it as independent as possible.
Correct, and they fund it all themselves through their Patreon channels. You should check them out and the OSWA videos if you haven't before. Roy does his live stream every year for it. There's a kickoff one that they do, and then they just did the nomination show last weekend, where they announced this year's nominations, and they go through the whole process of how things get nominated. They rely on all these other whiskey content creators. I couldn't do it this year because the channel hasn't been around for a year yet. So next year I could. We'll see. We'll see how involved I want to get. But basically, you can contribute to the nomination process, and those six nominations in, was it eight or nine categories?
9 categories.
Yeah, nine categories. Go out to the public, so you can go vote on them right now. The website for this is oswa.co.uk. So oswa.co.uk. You can go check it out. Um, People do have some criticisms and things of this. I know we're not going to get too far into that. We have a few ourselves, but at the end of the day, this is our award show. Being enthusiasts, and I'm thankful that it exists, and they are
Yep.
continuing to make tweaks and things. So, did I miss anything?
No, I was just going to say that you can go vote. I believe it's until mid to late October that the voting is open.
Yeah, that
Um,
sounds about right. Yeah. But yeah, it's there's some things that are you could tell are hard, especially when there's only six nominations per category, and there's so many things that could be nominated. And I think they did a good job this year, kind of starting to cut out. There was always some weird one-off nominations. So I kind of felt like, and it seems like we have fewer of those this year. But your favorite whiskey is probably not nominated, so you can be angry about that, I suppose. But it kind of is what it is. But we're gonna go talk about what's been nominated, and maybe some surprises, what we think will win, if we would add something for our own particular winner, that sort of thing. Um, just a good conversation point for the experiences that we've had over the last year, and let's be real, probably kind of bleeding even beyond that, because nobody or very few people are going to try all of these whiskeys. You don't have to vote. You can skip categories and things like that if you don't feel comfortable. If you only have ever tried one and you want to vote for that, vote for that one. That's fine. Again, they talk about all of this both on the webpage and in their live stream announcement videos
and
that you can watch.
one other thing they do push heavily in each of the categories is the people's choice. So after you vote, you can also
Yes.
put in your own bottle, whether it's one that's already nominated or just something you would vote for. And then
Yep.
they also definitely highlight the top 10 people's choice category too.
Yes, they
Even
do.
if you think the whole category is trash and you want to go put in your own, you can go do that too. So
Yeah, and they do. Yeah, they do tally those up by hand, I think, and they do show those right after they announce the winner of the official category. They do
mm,
show the People's Choice Award winners as well. One thing to remember as we go through these: there was a new twist to kind of shake things up a little bit this year. They have introduced this idea of a trifecta award. So if there was a bottle or a distillery that had won the same category 3 years in a row, they said, okay, well, this year you aren't going to be eligible to win that category, to be nominated for that category, but we're going to kind of honor you separately as a trifecta award winner. And I think they're actually hoping that some of those winners will actually be the ones that announce the new winners, because it's all about community and all that stuff. So it's really cool what they're doing. It's a lot of work. I'm sure the amount of grief that they get is like, I definitely would never have started this up. This was not a project I would have endeavored to because it's bad enough, even just giving one bottle of whiskey a score lower than someone else might like, or higher than someone else might like. And not that I've ever gotten anything like bad, but multiply like those kind of like, they're obviously annoyed, and amplify that by 5,000
Yeah,
or
so
something.
many times. Yeah.
Yeah. Anyways, we're just coming at this from a bit of a point of conversation, and yeah, maybe we'll point out a thing or two that we feel is a little awkward, but at the end of the day, we're happy to just kind of go through this and use it as a way to discuss this. And we encourage you to go vote, because the more people that vote and the more people that get involved, the better ultimately that the awards are going to be. And they're useful for people kind of coming into whiskey or identifying new things to try, stuff like that. There's always a few bottles that I had never even heard of before that kind of get through nominated on here. I think
Mhm.
there's like 2 this year that I didn't know existed before I saw this. So it should be fun. So I'm going to bring up the nomination page here, add this to the screen so everyone should be able to see it. If you are interested, you do have an archive of all the previous information up here, so you can go check things out and kind of see how this has evolved over time. It very interesting. One thing I wanted to point out, it's a completely wrong category, but in 2021, the Blessed Blended Malt, you know what it was?
Now I can probably think back. 2021 blended malt. That probably, I know Orchard House was around there. The Orchard House?
No, it was Johnny Walker Green Label.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
Yep. Everyone loved it back then, and then it seems like we'll maybe talk about this a little bit more, but there are some categories. There's definitely bottles of
right.
whiskey that got nominated and even won like the awards that never got nominated for anything. Again, it's very interesting, kind of the ebb and flow of what people are talking about, what continues to get talked about, what kind of just fades into the background, and who knows if people are still enjoying it as
Yeah.
much as they were. But well, I'm sure a couple of those will come up. But
Totally forgot about that.
let's go through these categories just the way that they are listed here on the page. And one probably thing to add is who eventually wins these is probably is not really all that important. I think you had mentioned kind of on a sidebar that Roy basically says the same thing, that if you getting nominated is the victory in and of itself, and who ultimately wins is probably kind of second, because these are all going to be pretty good whiskeys one way or the other, or at least interesting, but everyone has their opinions, and we'll get into a couple of those. But the first one is best value whiskey. This is limited to Scotch, I believe. It doesn't say Scotch whiskey.
I don't think it inherently is, but I do believe every nominee has been.
Okay. So it is one good thing to point out, just if this is your first time being exposed to all of this, is that there are some weird quirks at times. If you are like a bourbon drinker or something like that, or if you're in the US or if you're in Canada, or if you're just somewhere else, that it's reiterated repeatedly that this is from a Scotch whiskey drinker's perspective. And what they really mean by that is it's probably mostly concentrated in the UK and into
A
Europe.
Scotch drinker in Scotland.
Yes, pretty much. Yes. It's in the UK and maybe kind of into Europe, where the selection is going to be a little bit broader. It's going to be a little bit more timely. You don't have to wait 6 months for something to kind of come over for the first time, like we do on occasion. And so, if you're a you if you're a bourbon lover and you see kind of bourbons pop up in some of the categories, and well, how did that get nominated? That's not the best. It's what's available worldwide, particularly in the UK and in Europe, where a lot of this is really kind of being sourced. But, anyways, the first category is best value whiskey. They don't have the little descriptions of what the category is supposed to mean that they kind of go through in the videos, which kind of help frame things. But this is basically quality for money. It doesn't mean cheap. You could have something that was very expensive on this list. They don't tend to make this list for this category, at least. Value is something that carries through into basically all of their categories. Um, but except for when it doesn't, and there is something that kind of strangely gets through the nomination process that at least a lot of people would feel is not really very, very value oriented. But yeah, value does not mean cheap. And you will see some more expensive whiskeys, but not super expensive.
Yeah, yeah. Cheap for how good it's perceived to be.
Yes. So, best value whiskey, really best value Scotch. We've got Ardnamurchan AD, 46.8%. They have it listed at 47 pounds. Benromic 10-year-old, 43% at 42 pounds. Brigelicky 13-year-old, 46% for 54 pounds. The Glengarry 12-year-old, 48% at 52 pounds. The Kilkerran 12, aged 46% at 50 pounds, and the Lechic 10-year-old, 46.3% at 40 pounds. So nothing here over 55 pounds. Also, we have the Benromic, a little bit of an outlier because it's a lower ABV. Talked about to death.
Yep.
And I certainly have thoughts on that because Benromic makes some of the best damn whiskey in the world. And I'm sure that, and the 10 and the 15, I'm sure they're fantastic. But yeah, I've just stuck to the cast strength single barrels because why wouldn't I? But anyway,
Yeah,
so
when you want that character, you kind of want it to be loud and
yeah,
present. Yeah.
because it's not the 43% necessarily that's the problem. Because I agree that's not enough of a. If it was 46 versus 43, it's not that big of
Yeah.
a deal.
Right.
It's the lower ABV combined with the chill filtration, and even then, there's a little bit of principle there. Like I'll buy the stuff that I can get that's presented the way I want it. I don't have to buy these things. But with the channel, I probably will be buying some Benromic Core Range bottles um, in the next 6 months or something like that. I don't
Sure.
know. Not predicting that. I'm going to have to kind of say, all right, I'm going to need to go try these bottles for once and for all, and not be the stickler whiskey geek and just keep snapping up these single barrels when they pop up. But what's your initial reaction? And I know we haven't talked about what's in your glass or anything like that. I think you've got a couple that you want to kind of bring up, but so feel free to mention those as you go by. But anything
Sure.
here that just screams yes, thank you, or absolutely no, what are they talking about?
Um. So yeah, I mean, and you've known this about me, and I've probably mentioned it in previous podcasts and stuff. But my bottle for this category has been for the last year or two the Glencairn 10. I absolutely love that bottle. The brightness, the fizziness, it the fruitiness. It just really pops for me.
Yeah.
So that would have been what I would have liked to have seen here. Clearly, I don't. So as a mini protest, I am drinking Glencairn right now. Although I'm not drinking the 10 because I am out. And like Brian said earlier, we haven't been able to find Glencairn in the States in several months.
Yeah. Ever since I started looking, at least.
I am drinking a Glencairn 15 that I've had for a little while. Just as a one man minor protest for Glencairn not being here. but it's not here. So let's talk about what is.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, I would say largely probably this makes a lot of sense. Certainly some surprises. Glenn Geary is something you don't really hear a lot about.
Mhm.
Um, so for that to make it over, Deanston 12 or Bunnahabhain 12
Yeah, the
is
whole
surprising. I mean, I like that something that's that the nominations aren't the same every year as well. So I'm not upset that it's here. I've actually Glenn Geary is a distillery over the past 12 to 15 months that I've found and have really started to dig into. I've got a few different Glen Geary bottlings. I don't have the 12, um, but I can certainly understand if it's as good as some of the other stuff I've had, why it would be here. Um, I'm still the Ardnamurchan AD. I guess I'm still like I do love Ardnamurchan. It's really tasty stuff. I am still erring on the side of it's a bit overhyped, just a bit. Like, I think you'll see Ardnamurchan, I think it's 3 times in this
yeah,
award show, and it's, kicked out of one category because it's got the trifecta award,
right,
and, like, it's still only a 10-year-old distillery, but, I mean, granted, they are still making really good stuff, but,
right.
I think Ardnamurchan AD, I'd rather have a Deanston 12. I could probably
Gotcha.
think of a few bottles but, I
Yeah,
mean, if I had to vote here, I'd probably vote for the Kregeliki 13. I do love that kind of waxy, meaty character here. But I mean, the other three, Lecheg 10's pretty much there every year. Kilkerran 12 is a fan favorite. Ben Romick as a distillery is just people. So nothing
yeah,
super surprised. I would make some tweaks, but uh, I'm good with the category.
yeah. I'm the Glengarry making it. This is one that like I think everyone kind of loves, but nobody talks about it as much as some of these other bottles. But that just might be the channels I'm watching or the forums I'm reading or whatever.
Mhm.
But I picked up a bottle after hearing somebody talk about it last year, and in fact, I have 2 bottles poured out for tonight, and they're both from this category. One of them is a Glengarry 12 because I'm a decent amount into the bottle, but not super far, and it's been a little I don't think my head's wrapped around it yet because it's not what I expected it to be, and I've enjoyed it a lot, but, yeah, I'm not ready to, like, put my judgment down on it yet, that's why I haven't done a review on it yet.
Mhm.
But I do have some poured here as
Okay.
an example. That was a good excuse to actually pour myself some and get a step closer to enjoying it. But it is an interesting whiskey at the very least. It is not a simple, uh, easy to drink dram. Let's say it's got some complexity to it, and I think you can say that about almost all of these. To be fair,
Yeah. Yeah.
um, the other bottle I have poured is a bottle that I have reviewed, although I've opened a new one, but, I reviewed the Kilkerran 12. It was in the old bottling style, and I didn't love it. I
Mhm.
it wasn't bad, but it just didn't really kinda click with me, and for as much as I love some of Glengyle's other Kilkerran products, I figured, "You know what? I don't wanna let this sit for too long." So, I grabbed a bottle a little while ago, sometime over the summer. It's a 2023 bottling, and I cracked it open tonight
Oh,
to see if that could possibly be the winner in this category. Because probably similar to you, there's a lot of bottles of whiskey I like here, but I was just like, there's a lot of bottles that I would probably have voted for over some of these. Like, Bunnahabhain 12 hasn't been nominated in this category at least for a couple years, which is kind of crazy to me. Although Bunnahabhain will come up later. There's no Port Charlotte 10, which was an abs and I think continues to be a bit of a darling of the enthusiast community, right? The Port Charlotte 10 is a very good whiskey. You mentioned the Glencadam 10. Loch Lomond 12 has been nominated before. They're not here. I haven't had that one yet, as I mentioned. And the Deanston 12 are all whiskeys that I think have either been nominated in this category before or probably should be. And the fact that you had like Glengarry beat all those bottles out, I think is like impressive. Again, not knocking the nomination really at all,
Mm.
but the Ben Romick 10 maybe beating that out, although this is one of the cheaper bottles. Electric 10 is 40 pounds in the, the UK. And that I don't remember it being that cheap, but um, yeah, the Electric 10 actually being the cheapest bottle that's listed here is pretty surprising. But yeah, in terms of what I would pick out of these, Craig Ellicky 13 is a good choice. Just opened a Thompson Brothers 13-year-old bottling of that, and it's cast strength and it's super pale and it's just Craig Ellicky on steroids, pretty much. If you love the 13, the regular 13, that bottle would absolutely be a winner for you. So yeah, the Craig Ellicky 13 and the Electric 10 are probably pretty close, but I want to get into the Glengarry and the Kilkerran a little bit before
Okay,
I
yeah.
make my finalized vote. Which I'm I'm not going to know that answer at the end of the night. I'm glad we still
Mhm.
have some time to actually put our votes in because I've got some more research to do before I make my final mind up. But
Yeah, and like you, my Kilkerran, the last Kilkerran 12 I had, I think, was 2021 or 2022 bottling as well. So be interesting to see what you think about the newer batches. I've heard they've gotten better.
yeah, I mean, first sip of the neck pour, when I poured it and I nosed it, what jumped out was how fruity it was.
Mhm.
And yeah, it's definitely got some more fruitiness than I remember from the bottle I reviewed. A little tight on the back end yet. Finish kind of dies off, but I'm assuming that's just because it's freshly open bottle. But yeah, that's pretty tasty. Um, Probably definitely not far off, if not already better than the bottle I actually reviewed on the channel, which was, again, I don't remember what year it was, but it was one of the taller old style bottles. So uh, yeah, interesting category here. Interesting omissions.
Mhm.
Just because there's some stalwarts here that would absolutely belong if they were to have gotten nominated, and an interesting choice or two. Like I said, Ben Romick is a distillery. Is just fantastic. It just never seems to disappoint. It seems like people are definitely over the whole 43% chill
Mhm.
filter. So, which is fine, which is good.
Yeah.
Good. It seems
Yeah,
like
and like I say, I'm glad that there are some surprises here because otherwise it might just be like the same 6 to 8 bottles every year. So
yeah.
I like
We
seeing
did
new
not
stuff sneaking
mention
in.
that Aaron 10 is not eligible to be nominated because it won the trifecta award. So
Yeah.
Aaron 10 had won this the first 3 years, and I know a prospect that you strongly, vehemently disagree with, but uh, one that I bought a bottle. I was kind of like, oh, it's good, but is it really that good? And I bought a bottle and did a review earlier this year, and I don't think it would win the category for me still, but I mean, it's a very good bottle of whiskey, so I don't I don't begrudge anyone who believes that Aaron 10 is the best value whiskey you can get. All right, so let's move on. We got a couple categories coming up that you and I probably have some limited experience with. I think a lot of people have limited experience with. Um, but the next one is the best blended whiskey. So this is anything that's a blend of something other than single malt or of malted barley. There we go.
Yeah.
So and it does tend to be blended Scotch. This is the same category as your Johnny Walkers outside of the aforementioned green and your Chivas Brothers and Dewars. We've been getting this new wave of quality blended Scotch lately. Some of it has made it over here to the States
Mhm.
for us to try recently. And this has really been a hot spot for the whiskey community just because of the affordability and the quality. And it's good to see producers taking this category seriously again, even though I didn't have an attachment to the old blends that when they used to be really good, apparently.
Sure.
It's it's good to see, bottles that are in that 30-35 pound range really come out with a lot of flavor and getting people excited again.
Yeah, absolutely. Like I say, I've got, I think you've even got more experience with this category than I do. Still some surprises here, though. Like, I don't think you or I have heard of the Woven Super Blend until now.
Yeah, first time hearing of it.
Um, I will say I'm surprised based on the price and specs that Hibiki Harmony made it. I know it's a pretty, especially in the years past, it was a pretty well-known bottle. But
Yeah,
just in 2024, I mean, you just look at the prices. That bottle is 30, or I guess 25 pounds at least more than everything else, and it's
yeah,
43%.
yeah.
Definitely a surprise from that community. But the decent bottle is the one I had.
Yeah, Hibiki was definitely a gateway whiskey for me. It was kind of in that first year or so before I became a whiskey enthusiast or whatever, where I had actually legitimately started to enjoy drinking whiskey, but hadn't really connected with the community or really knew anything about whiskey to begin with. I was introduced to Hibiki through some coworkers at like a work party and that sort of thing, and um, yeah, it was like, oh my god, this is fantastic, and immediately went and got a bottle of it and really enjoyed it. But haven't picked up a bottle since that one, just because there's other things to drink.
Mm,
It's again, it's not 100% Japanese, I don't believe, and so there's some blended Scotch in there probably. But it's at least the last time I tried it, it is a very good whiskey. Although I didn't even realize that this would be eligible for this category until I saw it nominated. I'm like, oh yeah, I suppose, right? It's definitely probably a blend of different grains.
yeah.
But um, yeah, outside of that, the Thompson Brothers 6-year-old PBBSW. I don't know. We didn't go through each one of these nominations. Maybe I should do that. But we have the Compass Block. We have the Compass Box Glasgow Blend, 43% for 40 pounds. The Hibiki Harmony Japanese blended whiskey for 43% for 75 pounds. The McLean's Nose blended Scotch, 46%, 32 pounds. Thompson Brothers 6-year-old PBBSW, 46%, 35 pounds. The Turntable Bittersweet Symphony blended Scotch, 46% at 49 pounds. And then the Woven Super Blend blended Scotch at 46.1% and 40 pounds. So yeah, Woven Super Blend, first time I'd ever heard of it. Uh, the Turntable, definitely have heard that they are doing really great work with
Yep.
blended Scotch for the last couple years now. They seem to be releasing on a little bit more regular basis. Definitely on that a little bit more expensive. I think there's some higher aged whiskey and things in their blends. They have a range of things that they're releasing, so that's good. But I can't speak to Turntable. The other four, uh, to some degree, we talked about Hibiki already. The Glasgow blend. I don't know why I can't say Glasgow tonight, but Glasgow blend is. I have tried, I think, a couple bottles of. They're not single barrels, obviously, but like stores can get kind of their own personalized blend, or
Yeah, I've sent you one. I
it's
believe it's called a single marrying cask, I think is what they're
yeah,
kind of called. So they basically make the blend and then they put
right,
it in
gotcha.
one cask.
Is that this higher than 43%?
Yeah, I believe it's 48%.
That sounds right. I've tried a couple of those. I think like you said, you've let me taste one of yours, and then I think I've tried it. I think a friend back in Denver had a bottle of it, and I tried it there. And I don't remember what happened in the blind, but I remember liking the one I tried in person. I
Mhm.
have reviewed both the McLean's Nose and the Thompson Brothers 6-year-old. I prefer the Thompson Brothers 6-year-old. I enjoy
Yeah.
the McLean's Nose. It's obviously younger. I think it's a lot of young Ardnamurchan. So it's about 15 pounds cheaper than the Ardnamurchan AD. Yeah. So, but to me, it smelled and tasted, young. It was still good. That's not necessarily a bad thing. But the Thompson Brothers, the TBBSW, was slightly better. I think I gave them both sevens, but said in the video that I preferred the Thompson Brothers
Brother.
6-year-old, just because it does not come off as a 6-year-old. It's another great use of casks, and without being too heavy-handed. With said cask, it's easy to make a sherry bomb, but the BSW is a really good whiskey and would definitely be my vote. I don't have anything to add to the category because, as you mentioned, haven't got to try a lot of other high
Yeah,
quality.
yeah. So the one nice thing about as being as Americans that the McLean's Nose has made it here at what $35 you can get it for now. So
Yeah, it's $35 a
which is
can. So.
technically a better deal even than the 32 pounds that they have listed here.
Yeah, I believe the Thompson brothers won the BSW won this category last year.
Yeah, and I fully expect it to win again.
I would. Yeah, the McLean's Nose, because I think that was nominated last year as well, and the Thompson brothers still won. But yeah, I think the Thompson brothers are doing really great work with their blends. The McLean's Nose is really interesting and really good, but it isn't, I think, for the masses. The Thompson brothers.
I get the sense that the McLean's Nose is heralded as a great budget whiskey, whereas the Thompson brothers is just a great whiskey. People will recommend it kind of for any category.
Yeah, I mean, even at the $55 at the Thompson, although it was on sale at K&L. They had it down to $42 or something like that.
That's heck of
Yeah, I thought about stocking up, but I've stocked up enough.
Yeah, especially I mean, there's already rumors that one's going away.
Yeah, they may not be able to maintain it, but it's again, is it so good that I just have to have
Right.
bottles of it? Maybe have one tucked away. Maybe I'll grab one if I have room in a box from K&L at some point, but up to this point, I haven't done that.
Sure.
All right, anything else you wanted to add to this category? Because I know you haven't tried too many of these.
Yeah, no, like I say, I've tried the Hibiki again. It was fine. I said I do enjoy the Glasgow blend single vat cask, whatever it's called that I have. Yeah. But again, that's not exactly the same product as this.
Mm-hmm. Cool.
So I haven't tried the 43.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how this category continues to evolve. Whether these types of products stick around. A lot of that kind of depends on probably the rest of the industry, which it seems like there's people expecting that the prices are going to all crash and everything's going to be set on fire, and there's going to be a fire sale on every other whiskey. So maybe these won't be all that cheap, or comparatively, they won't be a bit of a deal because we'll be able to get all the stuff that we love for cheap because nobody else is buying it. But we'll see. We'll see how bad things get. But yeah, let's move on to another blended category, but this is the best blended malt whiskey category. Again, these are all blended these are all from Scotland. Just real quick, we have last year's winner, the Campbelltown Lock, which is bottled by Springbank. There's supposedly a lot. This has every Campbelltown brand, so there's Springbank, Longrow, Hazelburn, Kilkerran, and Glen Scotia in here, with a decent amount of young Kilkerran, is what I've heard. So that is coming at 46% ABV, 40 pounds. The aforementioned Compass Box Orchard House, which is 46%, 47 pounds. McNair's Lumreek 12-year-old blended malt, 46%, 56 pounds. That is from Billy Walker at Glen Allachie. So he does these. That is a peated blended malt. There is Old Perth Cask Strength blended malt, 58.6%, 48 pounds. Not familiar with this one, although I would like to be honest. Looking just, man, 58.6%, 48 pounds, and just,
yeah,
it's either going to be fantastic or like way too high of an ABV.
This might be like the first cask strength blend that's been nominated in any of the years, I think.
Yeah, it could be. I'd have to go back. You don't see, I mean, what Douglas Lang does the cask strength, like Big Pete. And so, there are some. I don't know if they've been nominated though, but I'm pretty sure, because I think like the Scallywag might have got. I want to say there was a cask strength Scallywag that was nominated a few years ago.
Could be.
So that would be interesting. I think this was the first I heard of this one, although then I immediately saw something else about it. Someone else did a review, or maybe it wasn't a coincidence. I don't know.
Mhm.
And then you have two Thompson Brothers offerings. Their new 8-year-old North Highland blended malt, which is 44.5%, 35 pounds. Has been all the rage the last few months. They've done a couple batches of it. Uh, it's dressed up in Tesco coloring, I believe, and it's even at a lower ABV, although it is non-chill filtered and super natural color because it's super pale. You can see in the photos here.
Mhm.
And the venerable Thompson Brothers SRV5, which was kind of one of the ones that set off the whole uh, non-compass box blended malt craze. That is 48.5% and 34 pounds. So once again, we are sticking under 50 pounds, although McNair's Lumreek is a little bit over at 56, but that one is fairly heavily peated to my understanding.
Yeah.
Um, have you've tried the? I know you're a big fan of the Orchard House. I think you've tried the SRV5. Have you gotten to try any of the other ones?
Yeah. So I've had a Campbellton Lock. Actually, I believe I still do have a bottle of it.
Okay.
But the other three, the Old Perth, the McNairs, have not tried those. Although again, like I would like to try especially the Old Perth. I think uh, from what I've read has been decent. And
Yeah.
like you said, the Tesco bottling. I mean, that's fairly new, and that's not making it over to America. At least it has not yet.
Yeah.
Especially with the marketing of it, I don't think Americans would understand it. So I
Yeah.
think that's for a UK audience. I would suspect.
Yeah, and they're selling out pretty quick. I know they've done a couple batches, and each time that it's hit, it's been snapped up pretty fast. They're not big batches.
Mhm.
I doubt we would see any of that stuff unless they want to do something that's like Walmart branded or something for us
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
get sued by Walmart. But
It is somewhat interesting that the SRV5 is higher proof and the same price, if not cheaper, than the new one. I wonder. That's interesting.
yeah, it might have to do with the distilleries involved. Was it Glen Ord and Clynelish or something like that? I can't remember for the Tesco bottling,
That
but
sounds right.
it was something like that. Yeah. So although those might be in the SRV5, I don't remember either, and I
Mm.
think they might change from batch to batch. But yeah, who knows? I mean, with the Thompson Brothers, you trust that they're charging you what they need to charge you, and
Mhm.
not going off too much more than that. So, uh, one Compass box, they're kind of we're the again we're kind of the reason blended malts. They definitely were kind of the flag bearers and torch bearers for the blended malt category, obviously alongside the aforementioned like Douglas Lang and there's a bunch of other ones that are doing really good work as well. But Compass Box really gained a following. Still seeing the Orchard House here, although they don't make the Spice Tree and the
I know
maybe
that. Yeah, they discontinued a couple of them.
yeah, I think maybe Spice Tree was done. Maybe the Peat Monster is still around. But anyways, they keep coming out with new products as well to replace them. So um the Campbelltown lock, much beloved. I got like the first wave of the Campbelltown lock when I hit the States here. It's a much paler color. Um, Liked it, didn't love it, just finished the bottle not too long ago. Definitely wasn't super up on the hype train with that one. Although I did start to like it a little bit more towards the end.
Okay.
Um, I I'll be picking up similar with the Kilkerran 12 here, a newer version one of these days and kind of doing more of a contemporary review, but it might come down that I just might not be a huge fan of younger Kilkerran. But just the one I'm drinking now, the 12-year-old is going down all right. 12 years old isn't exactly young, but
Sure.
this although I do love the Kilkerran 8s. So I guess I can't even say that. So
I was,
um
I was
the,
thinking
the,
that.
yeah, the Campbelltown Lock, I'll have to try one of the newer bottles, but it was fine. I didn't hate it, but didn't wasn't just,
It
kind of
didn't pop for you either.
yeah, the Orchard House, that's a bottle I probably need to grab a new one of. Definitely drank. I drank one of them and was a big fan of that one. When I finished
Mhm.
it, I had a dram of it when I was at your place last month or earlier this month, whenever it was. And yeah, definitely still tastes like a young whiskey, but there's a lot of good qualities there. So I am still a big fan of the Orchard House, and the SRV5 is pretty good. Didn't like that one quite as much as the BSW, although it is still a really good whiskey. There's less of a cask influence there. So again, some of the youth is just a little bit more apparent. So it depends on whether you like that young, spirity whiskey, which I think I'm in a phase right now where I'm not completely in love with it, but hey, we all go through phases, right?
Absolutely.
The Lumreek is
Absolutely.
available in the States. I've seen the 12 and the 21-year-old version here. Another one that it just hasn't made the cut in terms of making it into my cart. So maybe this will urge me to change that one of these days. But yeah.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to watch, especially like for bottles like that. Interesting to watch when they do the award show because they break down how many votes everything gets.
Mhm.
Like if Lumreek is like second or third place, because I don't think we expect it to win, but if it wins, like if it's if it's up there, like okay, maybe this is something worth definitely checking into sooner rather than later if it does
Yeah,
well.
it's been around for a while. The 21 won some big award a couple years
Mhm.
ago, which is how I first came to learn about it. And Benny's had a bottle of it, but it's not a cheap bottle. It's a 21-year-old Scotch, so
Sure.
it was, I'll say it was $200 or more. So I I passed on it then, just because, yeah, for that price, it was. I'd like to try it first, but haven't. I don't think I've seen it available to try yet. So either the 12 or the 21. So if I was going to vote here, it's probably between Orchard House and the SRV 5.
Mhm.
I think it's probably pretty close. Um, I'm more recently familiar with the SRV 5, so and it at least RRP is cheaper. Although here in the States, they're about the same price, with the Orchard House being slightly cheaper.
Yeah,
So
I definitely voted for the Orchard House here. Like, it does the similar things to the Glencaddam 10 from the first category. So
yeah,
I'm a fan.
okay, cool. All right, so let's move on from these blended categories here and get into some stuff that maybe we're a little bit more we spent a little bit more time in,
Well,
or maybe
I
not.
mean, we do for this one, but
Yeah, so the next category 4, best non-malt whiskey. This is a category that's traditionally pretty dominated, I think, by bourbons. There's been up to 4. We still have 3 of them, or 2 with a Tennessee whiskey. Although Jack Daniels is bourbon, I don't care what they say. It definitely belongs in the same category. But we have an Elijah Craig barrel proof. They do not specify the batch, which if you're a bourbon geek, the batch matters
that is a lot.
a lot. Which they have that listed at 60% plus at 115 pounds, which
That's that.
it's impressive that it's impressive it keeps getting nominated, because it is basically nominated every year. You have Jack Daniel's single barrel proof or barrel strength Tennessee whiskey. They have that listed at 75 pounds. So again, these are what are available in the UK, and the UK doesn't get a lot of bourbon. So uh, that's what you're going to get from them. And that's a long, I'll skip ahead. The third bourbon is the previous winner, the Wild Turkey Rare Breed, which they are getting for 58 pounds and comes in at 58.4%. Then the 3 non-American non-malt whiskeys. Another one that I had not heard of prior to this being in the States, probably wouldn't do well in the States because it is a single rye from the Netherlands, the Millstone 100, 50% ABV, 98 pounds. Again, another one that they're paying probably a pretty good premium for, and I'm not familiar with that one at all. And then you have your 2 kind of go-to Irish whiskeys in these awards. Your Powers John Lane at 46%, 62 pounds, and your Redbreast 12-year-old, 50% ABV. Although, is that right? Is Redbreast 12 only 50%? That's got
I think
76.
they just put the minimum it's ever been
Oh, yeah, there's
because
a
it says
plus.
50% plus.
Yeah,
So
I missed the plus sign there. My bad. And that is 85 pounds now, which hurts me a little bit. Uh, initial thoughts about the non-malt whiskey category?
yeah, I mean, especially as Americans, this category is always difficult to kind of assess because we get so much more bourbon here. Like
Bourbon, rye, all the stuff. Yeah.
bourbon, rye is it's like we have to go out of our way to find malt whiskey here. like like we're barraged with non-malt and bourbons and ryes and stuff. So it's like, yeah, I mean, Elijah Craig barrel proof. Like that's really good. It depends on the batch. Um, but I mean, especially like rare breed, just kind of run of the mill here. Like it's kind of hard to almost take it seriously as an American in this type of a category. Um, so I mean, I've got the Jack Daniel's single barrel strength rye. I haven't had the Tennessee whiskey, but the rye is delicious. Um, and I have no doubts that the Tennessee whiskey is as well. I've heard the name Millstone, but yeah, we don't get any of that here by any means. And then of course the Redbreast 12 and the Powers John's Lane I think are nominated pretty much every year as well here. Um, the
Yeah.
Redbreast good stuff. I've not
Yeah.
picked up the Powers. Um, so yeah, I mean, I think me and you could fill this list up 3 or 4 times before we'd get to some of these maybe, but
Yeah.
um, yeah, I mean, I understand where they're coming from, and there's definitely some quality juice on the list. Sure.
Yeah. I mean, I guess I would slightly disagree on the rare breed. It is something that doesn't get. It was almost allocated for a little while, and then they were able to catch up with demand. But it's $60 to $70 a bottle here in a world where our good bourbon. Well, there's a ton of good bourbon out there, which I think is kind of what you were alluding to.
Yeah.
And so the rare breed might not stand out quite as much as maybe it did uh 3, 4, 5 years ago. But I just picked up a bottle for OSWA purposes. In fact, I'm trying to get a review out. I wanted a companion video alongside of it that's been kind of slowing me down. But the rare breed's still a really good, consistent quality bourbon, and I can definitely see why it keeps winning because it's still affordable. It's still, I mean, even in the states, the Elijah Craig barrel proof. Again, it's highly dependent on the batch, as the response that it gets from the bourbon community here.
Mm, absolutely.
There's been a couple really good batches lately, with a stretch prior to that of people getting somewhat annoyed with them, and then they drop the 12-year-old age statement off the bottle and stuff like that. So, but they have released some pretty good batches recently. But that is, I got my most recent bottle was the B524 from this year. It was another one that got some pretty solid, really solid reviews, and I still got that for $70 from K&L.
Mhm.
So I don't think it's worth the $130 plus
Oh
or
yeah,
whatever.
yeah. That I mean, again, we get it because
$50.
they're in the UK, and so they got to
Yeah,
pay extra to get it. But yeah, especially like the last few months, like barrel proof is at least everywhere I look, almost every store I go to has some batch in it.
yeah,
Now, oftentimes it's the A batches, which are
yeah,
often not quite as highly sought after, but
yeah. I've never bought an A
um,
batch
yeah,
before.
it's always 60, $70.
Yeah. Uh, the Jack Daniels is the sleeper here. It's widely available now. Both the rye has gotten much easier to get. It's a pretty new product, and it is fantastic. The
Mhm.
the, the Tennessee whiskey has always been viewed really, really well. The store picks are hard to come by. I don't even know if they still do store picks of those, because I haven't bought like a regular one because I keep looking for a store pick because I had one from Total Wine back in the day that was really, really good. But they're all single barrels at the end of the day, so it doesn't really make that much of a difference. But yeah, that's a sleeper that's widely available still here in the States despite, the craziness. And Redbreast 12 cask strength was one of my just favorite, like, non-Scotch, non-American whiskeys.
That's good
Oh, I
stuff.
absolutely adored it, and then the price really just kinda kept jumping up, and it wasn't even like I thought that it was just this terrible thing, but there was just always something else, I don't know, it just again, it just never made it into the cart. It was just like, "Oh, maybe I should get one." Yeah, I'd rather have this, and that's
Yeah.
probably putting me at my limit for for now. And so I haven't owned a bottle of the cask strength in quite a long time. And now if it's up, is it what is it, $120 here now or something like that?
I still see it for $100.
Do you still see it for 100?
I've seen at Benny's for $100.
Okay. Well, $100, I would maybe I'll consider still grabbing one. Same with as you, the Powers John Lane, another one. Think about it all the time with the channel. I'm kind of guessing both of these will make it into the cart before next March. And we'll get some St. Patrick's Day themed reviews out. The only Irish
Sure.
whiskey I have on my shelf is out of the Dingle batch 4 from them from a few years back, and I had a few drams out of that. Didn't blow me away, and it ended up kind of getting shoved in the back of like my miscellaneous shelf, and I never remember that I have it. So I've got to make it a point to dig it out and go back to it and see if I've opened up to it a little bit more than I did when I first got it. But yeah, my vote here pretty tough because Elijah Craig barrel proof, depending on the batch, probably takes it, particularly if you're getting it for $70. Pretty difficult to argue against that one. Uh, Jack Daniels, again, it's been a while since I've had one, but they do fantastic work. So it'd probably be between those two with a soft spot for the Redbreast. But
Yeah, I almost completely agree. Like I said, if I'm allowed to equate my single barrel proof rye to the Tennessee whiskey,
yeah,
that would be my vote. But if I'm not allowed to do that, which I mean I could, it
yeah.
doesn't matter. But
If your experience with Jack Daniels has been old number 7 and that's been it, you need to forget that
branch out.
exists.
Yep.
Flush that memory and get yourself one of their cask strength bottles because they do really good work. So, in the interest of time, we're both on the Elijah Craig barrel proof. Rare breed will probably win again, I would imagine, but I don't blame it for winning. I get it. It is still a tasty whiskey and it's cheap. It's affordable in the UK.
Yeah, it's all
It's
right.
not even that much more than it is here. So I get it.
Yeah. Meh.
All right. Category 5, we're back in Scotch whiskey land. We are talking about the best distillery. Got 6 nominations here, and we were talking about Ardnamurchan, which
Mhm.
shockingly, I guess, surprisingly made this list last year for the first time, or maybe it was even the year before.
Yeah, it was. I believe it was in both new distillery and distillery last.
Yes,
That
that's
was a.
true.
I
Yes.
think that was a whole
So,
thing.
and look, it's only surprising because it's such a young distillery. There's so many other choices to vote for. We kind of talked this about. We talked about this in our Dram Face uh, videos to death. So we're not
Yeah.
going to get into it too much here, but yeah, it was just like, oh, wow, like the hype is real for Ardnamurchan, and we love Ardnamurchan. We're probably not that hyped about it, but we do really enjoy it.
Oh yeah.
So anyway, Ardnamurchan makes best distillery list again. Uh, Springbank has been disqualified from winning this award once again because they will be receiving that trifecta award. They won it the first 3 years, kind of in a bit of a landslide, if I don't remember
Yeah.
incorrectly.
Disqualified is such a harsh word.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's kinda
They've
what they
been banned because they're
have been
so good.
disqualified. Yeah. I mean, literally. I mean, they
I mean, they
they
have been. It's
they
not.
met a
It's not.
certain
It's
amount
not
of
the wrong.
requirements that did not allow them to qualify for the
Yeah.
nomination
Oh
process.
yeah.
So
It's not the wrong word. It's just a harsh word.
they have been gently set aside. Sorry. So we got Ardnamurchan. We talked about Ben Romick. I think they absolutely deserve to be on the list in terms of the whiskey they make. Yeah, I think we're just gonna have to kind of get over the whole 43% thing. But Ben Romick makes the nomination list. Glengyle, talked about them and the good work that they're doing with Kilkerran, and they're also feeding, like the Loch Lomond, or it's not the Loch Lomond, the Campbelltown Loch blend, and we'll see them again for about a third time a little bit later. We've got Glen Scotia, another Campbelltown distillery making the list. Kilhoman are, as you pointed out, really are one. There's 2 mentions of Isla in this entire nomination list. This is one of them, and it's the only one that's peated. The only one
Yeah.
repeat comes into play here is the Kilhoman, making the list, probably well deserved here. Although another one you could look at, maybe from a value perspective, they didn't make the best value whiskey. Another one that probably could have fit in there. I thought maybe the Snag, with a lot of the attention that bottle's been getting over the last year or two, could have snuck in there, but they are a little bit more expensive, I suppose. But
Mhm.
again, value is still there. And rounding it out, Loch Lomond, been uh, a a favorite distillery of this kind of circle of the Scotch whiskey community. Roy is a big fan, so he has been talking about them a lot and even doing barrel picks, and he's got me hooked. So
Yeah, I mean, in his defense, he's shown us the light. We've
yeah, yeah,
become Loch Lomond fans to some degree, at least because of
yeah,
him.
yep,
Um, Now I will say that this, based on the little I've seen, has kind of been like one of the lightning rods is strong. Maybe one of the more controversial, or maybe even just talked about categories this year.
yeah,
Um, and I think that's just because of the lack of Bruichladdich on the award show entirely.
yeah,
But I think it's kind of this category is kind of taking the headlines.
yeah,
The fact that Bruichladdich is missing from any of the awards, or I should say all of the awards, has been a shock to a chunk of the community.
yeah. It that I've uh, shown my love to Bruichladdich. I'm a Bruichladdich fanboy. I like all of their expressions. I'm a Even to the classic laddie was nominated last year. That didn't get nominated this year. The Port Charlotte was nominated last year. Didn't get nominated this year. It is pretty surprising to not see them. I don't know if this is some sort of a backlash to the pricing on their 18-year-old products that they release, which I don't really understand, because I know some people are like, the 18-year-old Bruichladdich is not everyone's favorite release, but like the quality is super, super high. They weren't insanely overpriced. Um, they are definitely on the higher end, but they were still in kind of that core range of 18-year-olds, at least as far as they go here in the States.
Yeah,
So I know, like, compared to like the Lechick 18 and the Deanston 18 and stuff like that, yes, okay, they're considerably more expensive than those. So I get it to an extent, but that doesn't have any. I mean, I don't think that should have disqualified them from being even mentioned, as they all of a sudden don't exist. So very surprising.
yeah. Let's talk about what is here though. So Glen Scotia, the sort of often nominated, but not always the bridesmaid, never the bride, except for like the one. I think the Victoriana won one thing a couple of years ago.
The Victoriana won Best Scotch Whiskey of the Year, and Glen Scotia I kind of found to be, like, I'm not surprised, but like, yeah, it beat out Bruichladdich, it beat out Bunnahabhain. It, like, I could think about this even harder and find, like, okay, the 15's been really good for a long time. Everyone kind of knows it. It's one of those bottles that, like, I think it's just a standard loved bottle. It doesn't get a lot of talk.
Yeah, airtime.
The Victoriana, we said it got a ton of love, and then it just faded. I don't I keep I've still got a bottle of the old style label open, that I actually opened that one not too long ago. So maybe I should have kept that one sealed and went and got one of the new ones, because it'd be more relevant review for the channel. But
Mm.
I don't know if it's fallen off hard or not. I think the 10-year-old peated, and then they have like a double cask or something like that. I think it's a lower ABV.
Yeah,
Yeah,
double wood or
double,
no,
yeah,
that's
something like that.
probably something
Yeah.
like that.
Like, I think the 10 does get some love. Their Campbelltown Malts Festival, like their one kind of special. Well, I think they do a couple of special releases every year, but the one that kind of, I think, has been getting some attention lately has been the Malts Festival one.
Mhm.
I got turned off from that when I bought the Bordeaux finished one. That it's absolutely terrible, and so, and I was pretty upset about that. it's on my bottle kill shelf. I need to get it gone, so I've been trying to drink it, and it's just a clumsy cask. I can't believe they bottled it, but um, supposedly the last few have been pretty good. So maybe one of these days I'll pick one up. But I am a little surprised that Glen Scotia made it, just because it seems like there's other distilleries that get talked about a little bit more. But I think the quality of their whiskey justifies their existence on the list
Yeah, definitely always been good stuff. I'm actually gonna look. Have they been nominated every year? I feel like they might have been nominated.
every year. Wow.
I think so. I think so.
Let's take a look.
Uh,
I've got all the screens up. Yeah, they were nominated last year. You're right.
okay, they were not in 2021, but I think then maybe the last 3 years.
Oh, here we go.
2022 was the Victoriana year.
Yeah, 2022 they got nominated
Yeah.
and they because of the Victoriana, and they did get nominated again last year, although I don't think they had a bottle represented. Oh,
But yeah, so yeah, it's
oh, they did. Okay, the Victoriana still got nominated last year. Maybe my brain just doesn't work right. But I don't remember the Victoriana getting nominated in 2023. Good thing I brought that up, so I'm not I can correct myself live. But yeah,
that's right.
and it's even the new label on the pictures. So
Yeah, no, I just wanted to mention Glen Scotia always kind of seems to be like number
hovering.
5 or number 6, kind of on people's list. Yeah,
All right,
and we've already talked about Arden American a little bit. Again, still fairly young, but releasing some good quality stuff. Kilhoman, that's been a big resurgence this year, uh,
yeah.
particularly
I
from
mean,
the
what this is saying is that via the nomination process, at least that group of people are basically saying, obviously not in one voice. This is a tally of votes and things like that and rankings, but Kilhoman's the best distillery on Isla. I mean,
yeah,
according to
as a
which,
crowdsourced voted on thing. Yeah,
yeah, well, yeah, this was not. Yeah, well, I guess this year they did change it where people could write in their own nominations. That was a change that they made this year, where there's the content creators were kind of doing this nomination process by themselves, and they were picking two distilleries or they were picking two options per category, and we were getting some weird nominations and things like that that were surprises. Again, I don't want to say that it wasn't deserved, but we would get some things that were a little out of they just didn't seem to fit, which is okay. That's fine. We still got some, I think, this year, but
hmm
maybe not as egregiously. But now they had to select one of their two choices from a list of write-in
community
nominations
community
from the
source. Yeah, no.
community source. So, and it did seem to smooth things out a little bit, although as we've mentioned, there have been some strange or surprising omissions. But again, you can't nominate everyone, and this
And
is the
it
way.
did sound like I don't know. I forget if it was the V Pub or the Lock-in, but Roy, it already sounds like they're going to be tweaking this again.
Yeah,
It
I,
sounded like things kind of went maybe not the way that they initially intended, so they have some more tweaks coming. But that's for next year. We can talk about it.
yeah. I mean, it is what it is. They're trying to figure it out without blowing the whole thing up every single year. I respect that. Trying to get some consistency, but yeah, you're right. Brew Cloudy not making the list is it's kind of hard. um, all right. Well, who would you pick as your best distillery? It doesn't have to be from this list, but who? I mean, outside of Springbank. So who is your current darling? Because I know it kind of seems to change every once in a
Yeah,
while.
so like this list of 6 for me is kind of tough. I like all like, Loch Lomond, Kilhoman, Glen Scotia, and Arden American. I like all of them. I don't know if any of them pop to the top of my list of like my favorite or the best distilleries. But they're certainly in the list of distilleries I love. So I don't fault them for being here. Like it'd probably have to be Ben Romick if I'm being honest with myself. I mean, Glengyle, Kilkerran, that's like the model of consistency lately. Like it's like the last year's Kilkerran 16. might convince me just because that one was so good, and that
Yeah.
their 8-year-old cask strengths are so good.
Yeah.
But especially as somebody who primarily just buys cask strength Ben Romick, that's hard to beat
Mhm.
too. Oh, like it's definitely one of those two. The other four are distilleries I thoroughly enjoy drinking, but yeah, in terms of best, I'd have a hard time.
Yeah. The list for me is definitely Ben Romick, Kilkerran, Kilhoman. Again, I've only owned 2 bottles of Kilhoman in my life. Haven't gotten to try a whole lot of other stuff
Mm.
from them. Well, not counting that Mac Bay from 2012 or whatever,
12
but
years ago.
yeah. Um, Loch Lomond, I'm just getting on that train. Not there yet. I've only tried some pretty specific offerings from them, although I'm definitely paying attention. Glen Scotia, again, it's range of the releases and that sort of thing, and I need to spend a little bit more time with some of their more contemporary stuff because I've been nursing some older bottles from them.
Mhm.
And Ardmark, and I don't think they're there yet. I think it's fine that they're nominated, but the track record and the breadth of what they've been doing, just I'm not ready personally. uh, but they're definitely one that maybe in a few more years I'd be a little bit more ready to crown them the champs. But yeah, so I'm probably between Ben Romick and Kilkerran as well out of these 6. Um, and yeah, like I said, if I can limit Ben Romick makes some of the best whiskey in Scotland and sticking to the cast strength stuff. And like I said, I'm going to experiment with. I'm going to break my protest because they've made it clear they're not going to start doing anything differently anytime soon. So we'll be we'll be diving in probably the 10 and the 15-year-old at some point here. But if I were to, yeah, I mean, if there's someone that I would, or if there's a distillery I would vote for outside of these 6, and that's pretty tough as well, because I spread myself so thin, like just to get. I always feel with this category that I'm voting for for any given year, right? It's a bottle or 2 at max, and then you kind of have to dig back into your past and carry forward some of your experiences from there. So,
Mhm.
like the best distillery for most people are probably doing the same, right? There's most people aren't going to have every expression released on a yearly basis from a distillery. So this is an accumulation of success, which is also why Ardnamurchan doesn't quite get there for me yet. But so it's just tough to vote in general. That's why Springbank
Yeah.
is the one that I would know the best because it's the one where I'm
Yeah.
kind of trying to find everything that they're doing. But yeah, I would probably. Yeah, it's a toss-up between Ben Romick and Kilkerran for me. If I have a couple more drams of this 12-year-old in it, it's a big thumbs up for me, which is, I mean, it's drinking pretty nice right now. That might be enough to put it over, but Ben Romick, man, Ben Romick's good.
Good
So
juice. Good juice.
I'm gonna take my time to decide that one, but maybe right now I would agree with you and say Ben Romick on this list, provided it's cast strength. And
I will caveat like Kilhoman, I think could be a dark horse for me. I have I bought a bottle of the Seneg recently purely on the hype. I've
yeah,
not opened it yet. But I think before closing or voting closes, I might crack that open and see what I think.
hmm. You see, they just announced cast strength Seneg,
I did see that. Yeah.
which is interesting. I don't want to. We're we're stretching this out a little bit to begin with, but it's exciting, but also a curious choice for them to do.
Mhm.
I don't like that's a discussion for another day because like what I mean, it's already the geeks are the ones drinking the regular Seneg. No, like, are you just like eating your own product? Is it super limited in bottling? I don't know, but anyway, Kilhoman. I wouldn't argue with anyone voting for Kilhoman. Just watch my Seneg review. It's fantastic, and the other bottle that I have of it is also really really good too. So,
Yep.
all right. Moving on to 6, best new distillery. Uh, and it's a tough one because I don't love young whiskey. Uh, for me, so first off, the nominations are Ardnaho, which did their first release this year. Glasgow Distillery, which they've been around for a little while now. Isle
Yep.
of Raasay, Leg Distillery, which again there will be a review, my review of Leg Corey Cravey, posted tomorrow, so a couple days before this is released. Loch Lee from the Lowlands and Torraveg on the Isle of Skye. So this is always a tough one, as I was saying, for me, because I don't love super young Scotch whiskey. It's I do find examples of it that I like, but I do enjoy at least 8, 9, 10 years old. So the distilleries that are reaching that, which is like Ardnamurchan and that sort of thing, although I don't think I've had anything that's 8 years old from Ardnamurchan yet. Um, these can be a challenge, but I have you sent me the new Torveg, the Anak
Knock Knocknamoin Chapter 3.
that's what it is. Yeah, yeah, the Nakamoin. Um, that was really good. I think did
Really
that
good.
win blind it was in?
Yep.
Or
And
for me.
that'd be some impressive stuff too.
Yeah, I really like that one. I had one of the first bottles of Torveg when it first came out here in the States. I liked it well enough, but it was a brash, super young whiskey because that had to have
Mm.
been 84 years old. Um, and super heavily peated. I definitely wasn't into that wasn't my category at that point in time. Um, I had a bottle of the Loch Lee that I found to be perfectly fine Scotch whiskey to drink, but didn't see anything special about it. I think it was our first release or something like that that hit the States.
Mm.
But people have been really starting to like Loch Lee. And then Leg is probably of the Isle of Raasay. Well, Isle of Raasay I've tried. I have one bottle of that. Did not particularly enjoy my expression of
Mm.
it. Thought it was pretty rough and has kind of made me nervous to go out there and buy some of the other like single casts and stuff that we get here. Or because those are like that seems like really a bit of a crapshoot. Haven't tried the Glasgow Distillery Company. Haven't tried Ardnaho yet, but yeah, Leg would win this one for me probably just based on one bottle, the Corey Cravey. The Torraveg, again, I've only had one dram, so I'm going to go on the one that I've had at least a little bit more of and say that Leg would be my choice for this one. No, Ardnamurchan is getting the trifecta award for this category, so they are not eligible. And they are now 10 years old, so they will not be eligible in this category ever again. That was the rule for this. It had to be 10 years older or younger. And this would have been the
Correct.
last year Ardnamurchan would have been eligible, and they're getting the trifecta award this year. So I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah, so this is an interesting category for me, and this is one, especially this last year, that I've uh, been definitely have showing more interest in. Like I said, I've gotten the Torveg Knocknamoin 3. That was a lot better. That was a really good bottle. And I still have it, so still working through it, but um, liked it more than I thought I would. The Lag Corey Cravey picked that up. That's a absolutely fantastic flavor bomb of a dram. Big, heavy, meaty sherry bomb, super smoky. Like it's just a big flavor. It's delicious. Um, like you, I had one of the early Loch Lees. It wasn't the first edition, but it was like the first. I think it was the first sherry one. I know they have different. The fallow edition, maybe I think is what it was
Mhm.
called. Um, that bottle I actually found fairly unpleasant to drink.
Mm,
I that's one of the bottles I've actively disliked.
mm.
But again, it was 3 years old.
Yeah.
It was just so jagged and like it was just not ready yet, in my opinion. Um, but again, I've been hearing good things lately. Although I think they recently came out with their 5-year-old, and it was absurdly expensive.
Yeah. I think
So
you're right.
that doesn't inspire a whole lot of a lot of admiration to pick up a bottle of anything like that. But um, I've not tried Rasa yet. I've kind of gone off a lot of other people's opinions that it's close or that that's going to be good. So I'm holding off a little bit of hope there. I am. kind of getting the market for a Glasgow. Again, I've been hearing really good things lately
Mhm.
about a lot of different bottles. I know they're about 10 years old now. Um,
Yep.
so I think they're kind of in that ballpark of okay, let's see what they've got. And for the Ardnaho, I have the inaugural release here.
Yes.
As you can see, that is my second dram of the show here. And I will say, I cracked that open a few weeks, maybe a month ago. Uh, and I ordered it specifically in from the UK as part of a bigger order, just because of all of the hype and admiration. And I wanted to get in on it and see what was the deal. And my first pour, I was not a fan, if I'm being honest. But I've let it sit there for a few weeks, and I kind of wanted to see how it opened up. It's nosing nicer. It's definitely got more depth on the nose than it was. It was initially. Again, it just kind of tasted like a young peat bomb early on,
Hmm.
which is fine. But nowadays, I'm kind of looking for a little bit more
Well,
than
it's
just
getting
kind of
topped
a.
up so much that it's just complete that it's
I know
fantastic.
it was.
All that a young peat bomb, like anybody can make that, right? It's
Yeah.
you're looking for something a little bit more. But let's see what the second dram verdict is.
Okay, that's improved.
Okay, good,
I
good.
still don't. I mean, let me work through the dram, but
Okay, yeah, we'll let you come back to it.
yeah,
But
I'll mention something later. What I think.
so out of these six, and yeah,
Mm,
I don't have anything to add to these because the stuff that we get here is pretty limited. For Clydeside has been improving quite a bit because we had one of the first releases of them here in the States, and then I heard that that was a terrible whiskey, so I didn't buy it. And I guess that's um, they've been improving, and that maybe there's some of their newer releases are worth picking up and checking them out, which is great news. I don't want anybody to fail, especially in the winds that are seem to be brewing. So, but other than that, I don't. I think I've mostly at least bought something from all the new distilleries that are available here. I'm sure there's one or two that I've. Oh, Isle of Harris. I didn't buy one. Didn't buy an Isle of
mm.
Harris. I know I skipped that one. Haven't heard about too much from them lately. But uh, so did you pick from this six? So which you're gonna vote for, or are you waiting to see?
Yeah, I mean it's. I mean, I'll work through this Idaho a little bit more, but and it's got to be the lag again. I think not even just now, like, but that style. Again, they have that big, meaty, heavy, thick, kind of almost Edredowerian kind of a style. It seems like.
Yeah, I can see that. Yeah, yeah.
So, and yeah, I love myself some Edredower. So, I even think going into the future, I'm gonna love me some lag. But the
Yeah,
Torveg impressed.
yeah,
I gotta say the Torveg impressed,
yeah. It's
and
nice to see that from them.
I do think I'm gonna grab a glass. I'm gonna do some research and grab a Glasgow here, maybe before the voting closes, and check that out. Um, I'm not ready to hop onto the Razé or Lockley quite yet, but I look forward to see what they can do in the next couple of years.
Sounds good. All right, a category that I think both you and I feels a little bit odd and really hard to vote for, but best independent bottler. We have Adelphi, Caden Heads, Gordon MacPhail, the Scotch Malt Whisky Society, the Thompson Brothers, and North Star with Signatory Vintage, having won the Trifecta Award this year, not being available to vote on. Signatory for me is kind of the no-brainer because it's available here widely in the States. They have a very wide selection of distilleries. They have been expanding their line recently. Their 100 proof, 100 imperial proof line that they released this year was apparently fantastic. Hasn't hit the States. If it's going to, I assume it will not. But
Well, they'd have to call it something else, wouldn't they? Like they'd have to
yeah,
change
it
the
would,
name
it
of
would
it.
definitely have to rename it because it would confuse consumers because it says 100 proof on it, but that's imperial proof, which is 57.1, I believe. not 50%. So, um, but yeah, signatory is just the all around. I've never had a bad signatory. Maybe they haven't all been mind blowing, but like you can trust you're going to get something that's fairly representative of the distillery. That's going to be high quality, and I think you can trust them for the most part, and they're usually pretty affordable here in the States
Mhm.
as well.
Yep.
But there's a million independent bottlers out there, and it really is going to depend on a couple of things. A, whether you can buy bottles from that independent bottler, the bottles you chose to buy, from what distilleries you chose to buy them from. Right? It's you're looking for a consistency over time with fair prices, and with independent bottlers, what's available is very spotty, even in the U.S. Right? It's just because you're not guaranteed anything to be able to get the same thing on two different, where you are versus where I am. Maybe some bottles show up here that also show up in the Chicagoland area, but
Yep.
it's a little bit all over the place, and it's hard to kind of share experiences, let's say. But so I really don't know what I would vote for here, um, because I mean, I've had some Caden heads. I- Thompson Brothers really doesn't come over here very much. K&L gets one or two here and there, and they get snapped up immediately. So Adelphi shows up once in a while, but they tend to be higher age statements and are usually pretty expensive. SMWS, both of us have been a part of that. I don't know. I think I am because I think I got a free membership because I didn't renew. Their
Yeah.
bottles are kind of pricey. Shipping is weird. I don't know if they still have their 3 by 3 get shipping free or not, but for a while it was prohibitively expensive even within the States. Gordon MacPhail, obviously they're still bottling stuff, but they announced that they're not going to be buying more casks. So I don't know if maybe that's led people to not think of them in the same way. I don't know. It's all I really
Yep.
North Star. I've never had a bottle of North Star. I think maybe I saw something from North Star at KNL one time a couple years
Hmm.
ago, but I don't
I
even know
didn't
if
think they came over here, but yeah.
I don't think
Awesome.
it was a single barrel. It might have been one of their blends or something
Mhm.
like that. But maybe it was something that they couldn't settle in the UK because they were super high. People were really hyped about them, and then it kind of sounded like maybe their quality of what they were releasing dropped off a bit. But here they are. They're back, being nominated again. So I really don't know what I would vote for here. I don't know if you have an opinion on any of these, but
Yeah, I mean, I have some opinions, but I don't know if, like I said, like every single bottle they release is a brand new product, right? And it's not even their, like, I know that they're choosing when to release it, but like how many bottles from one independent bottler do I have to have to deem it a good bottler? And like for
yeah,
all we know, Thompson Brothers is going to win this purely because of their blends.
yeah,
Like,
we've
like
seen
they might win this not even because of their independent bottle, not like not their
yeah.
single casks, right?
Yeah, we've
So
seen examples of that in other areas. We kind of talked about that with the dram face stuff. Yeah.
yeah, so like I don't know, like this category to me is just I kind of ignore it because it, especially as an American, it doesn't really hold any relevance to me.
Yeah, I
I
think
don't know.
this is the epitome of the nominations are like this is a list of 6 companies that do independent bottlings that, according to the community, you can probably trust to release good whiskey. And then it's going to be up to you whether you are willing to pay the price because we know Adelphi
And
is a bit expensive. SMWS definitely not a budget brand, So this is kind of like, hey, this doesn't matter who wins this. These are all companies that you should at least look into and
yeah,
be willing to
but
accept.
also isn't like maybe I'll say these are also mostly a list of just the biggest independent bottlers too, right? Because they have the biggest scale.
Yeah, you're always going to get the ones that have the biggest reach, right? That's why I mean, Signatory Vintage was like a pretty clear winner, I think, over
Yeah.
the last 3 years. They're all over the place. Like I said, they have a huge selection. Like we can find if we do find a kind of an obscure distillery, it's going to be probably going to be from a signatory bottling.
Mm.
Um, and yeah, so that would put like Cadenheads is available here in the States. There seem to be these they're usually the 46% like larger kind of battings, which is okay, but I think a lot of times I pass on those just because I want a cast strength single barrel. That's why I'm buying independent bottlings. Although Signatory releases good 46% stuff. That's like a small batch of a 2 or 3 casks. So it's definitely not something I'm unwilling to buy. I just usually try to keep an eye out for the cast strength versions, and I don't see them much.
Hmm.
I think Gordon and MacPhail. I really actually haven't bought that much Gordon and MacPhail over the years. No reason. I don't have any reason not to. It's just a lot of Kahlua and uh, I bought a Kleinlish last year that is I'll pop open one of these days, but it's you know it's on the list of things that's like one of the few that I've even bought from Gordon Bale. So
Hmm.
yeah, I don't know. I don't have a strong opinion about this category, and I agree. I don't mind the category existing just to like have these 6 available for people to know about, but who wins is
Yeah.
pretty irrelevant. So why don't we move on? So because we're already kind of approaching our time limit here. But let's talk about best world whiskey. This is a category that encompasses any whiskey that is not made in Scotland. It can be a single malt, it can be bourbon, as you can see. I think obviously the brands of whiskey like in India that aren't whiskey the way we think about it, that are actually kind of like rum. I don't think those count. I think
Mm.
they have to be made from grain. But so this is basically the wide open category, and it's where I've seen some funkiness between the non-malt category and this one, where
Yeah.
there's weird. I don't think there's anything this year, but in just about every other year, especially with the bourbons, where like there'll be several bourbons nominated for best non-malt, and then a completely different bourbon will show up in best world whiskey, and like, well, how is that? Like, how does that happen? Like, if they're the best non-malt whiskey bourbon or the best bourbon in in the non-malt category, how are they not like that
Best
in
bourbon
the
in the
best
world
world
whiskey.
whiskey? Yeah.
Yeah.
So there's been weird stuff like that, and I've always kind of thought that these 2 categories are redundant, but um, again, it is what it is. We see some different options here, but um, do you have any? Let's go through the nominations real quick.
Yeah.
Balcones Texas single malt, 53%, 70 pounds. Uh, Surprise for me that this one is still up here, but not because it's bad or anything. But Cotswolds English single malt, 46%, 49 pounds. Indri Trini 3 wood Indian single malt, 46%, 40 pounds. Nika Yoichi Japanese single malt, 45%, 76 pounds. The Wild Turkey Rare Breed, 58.4%, 58 pounds. And Wireworks Bourbon Barrel English single malt, 53.4%, and 65 pounds for that one. Any thoughts that come screaming to your brain on these 6 nominations?
Yeah, definitely an interesting list. You mentioned the surprise at the Balcones. I agree.
The one
Although,
Diageo product that, even though
yeah,
I
yeah,
don't know if Diageo outright owns Balcones. They
I, I,
have some
bel
sort of stake
I
in
believe
the.
they own it enough to count because Roy did include this as a Diageo product.
Yeah, is the one Diageo product that made
Um,
it. But my understanding is that Balcones was just working with them because of their distribution. But I don't know the details. So
mhm. Yeah, I have a, I believe it's a store pick of a Balcones single malt. That's really tasty. That's really good.
mhm.
I've not had the standard wide release, but if it's anything like it, I can understand it. There's 2 England single malts here, um, which I'm sure they're delicious. I haven't tried either one of these specific bottles, although I do have the Alter Ego from Wine Works. Definitely an interesting one. Um, the fact that Yoichi keeps getting nominated is interesting. I feel like a lot of the enthusiasts either kind of love it or they kind of hate it.
Yeah,
Um,
I won't buy a bottle of it.
whether it's
Except
because
for
yeah, then there's multiple reasons to hate it, right?
yeah.
For price or whether the ABV or whether it's even Japanese whiskey or all that kind of stuff. Um, yeah, the Injury Trini, that's been a knockout, incredible
Yeah,
bottle from the last
that's
few
my easy
years.
it's my easy pick for this category.
And
It's like
and
not even
yeah, and the rare breed again, it's kind of a standby default type of a bottle of bourbon that they get in the UK. That's a really good value. So I understand it. Um, but yeah, I mean, it's not even close. I think Injury Trini. Again, I haven't had the Cotswolds or the Bourbon Barrel Wireworks.
yeah,
Injury Trini is incredible.
I've had same as you. I've had a cast strength Balcones single malt. Been a while. I started out really liking that. This was pretty early on in the geekdom phase of my whiskey journey, but I started out loving it. By the time the bottle was gone, I was kind of over it, and then I hated Balcones's rye so much that just it's totally just turned me off from like Balcones. I know they have some other products like was it Mirador, I think is their like Scotch style single malt.
Yeah, something like that.
I always kind of wanted to keep an eye out for that. I don't know if I've ever actually seen it on the shelf or not, but I don't look that super hard for it. So if I have to think of it to actually look to see if Total Wine carries it or something.
Mhm.
Cotswolds. I haven't picked up a bottle of Cotswolds yet. Heard a lot of good things about it. Again, it just kind of felt like it's not going to be another young whiskey on the shelf that at some point I will pick one up, but I just haven't felt ready to yet.
Sure.
The Injury Trini is just phenomenal. It's $55 max. Well, I shouldn't say max, but like it's usually under $55 here. The rare breed, we talked about the rare breed. Yeah, Wireworks, I don't know. It's not really available in the States. I think I have like one or two drams of your Wireworks. Probably just the one that I had while I was there. Probably wasn't enough for me to really wrap my brain around that one yet.
It was definitely different.
Yeah, it was definitely a little odd, I guess. Yeah, it was a
Yeah.
little. And then like so the Yoichi, I just look at it, I'm like, no, I'm not gonna buy that. Like I don't know. I just after I bought back a few years ago the Hakushu 12 and the Yamazaki 12. I think I pronounced those correctly, but yeah, I think that's right. Back when they were $130 a bottle, uh, and I got 43% ABV, and they were super hyped up, hard to get, and I at that time was like, I gotta do it, and I still have a third of those bottles in 8 ounce Boston rounds tucked away because I was like, I don't. There's nothing about these that's better than Scotch whiskey. Nothing that sets them apart. They're just watered down, more lightly flavored. And like I've liked the Hibiki Harmony. I've liked the Nika from the Barrel, which I know is a big chunk of Ben Nevis, but I don't know. I'm just not interested in purchasing Japanese whiskey at this point in time. So I don't. You can't convince me that for the price that it's going to be better than the options that I have available to me from or the United States. Yeah, if you like Yoichi, that's cool. I'm not mad about it. I'm not going to go on a crusade. I'm just in an effort to can I? Are there ways for me to look at certain bottles and whiskey that I just don't have to think about because there's so much that I do think about. I gotta.
Mhm.
One of it's just like I'm I'm not interested in Japanese whiskey right now. And I have a bottle of Nika from the Barrel that I have had like forever in somewhere. It's somewhere in here. It's not open, and that's and I have what's left of my two 12-year-old bottles from a few years back. But that's all the Japanese whiskey I'm going to have until that sorts itself out a little bit more. So, but yeah, Injury Trini is although I'm not super well versed in a number of these. Uh, I don't see. I'd be surprised if there was anything that would come and compete with the Trini. And but yeah, no. no Irish whiskeys make this list. Don't see Cavalon this year, and they had made it before with a pretty expensive bottle. So
Yeah, and also almost forgot to mention my final inspired dram. I like Andrew Trini so much. Picked up, there's a single cask.
yeah, the
Uh,
9-year-old.
9-year-old ex red wine, 58.5. I think
Yeah,
you would love this.
yeah. That
It is thick and kind of gross and
I,
heavy.
I think K&L still has them. Yeah, that was definitely one where it's like it's 9 years old and it's not like I said, it's not a budget bottle, which is okay. I get it.
Mhm.
Uh, Sometimes you gotta know what you're paying for and why you're paying for it. But so I definitely wouldn't mind one. I would definitely like to try it. It was just one of those like, man, again, you gotta make choices, and sometimes with the channel, it's
Absolutely. No, I'm looking forward to getting this in your glass because
yeah,
and you were there when we bought it. There was a red wine and a bourbon, an ex bourbon barrel. And I settled for this one. I kind of debated which one I was going to get, but I kind of almost thought about it, especially being from India, almost like bourbon,
mhm,
where I kind of just wanted it to be a big flavor blast, especially as from a
yeah,
hotter climate.
yeah,
So I went with this one, but and I do love it. Again, you have to be in the mood for it. It's it's unique and big, and again, it's slightly gross, but that's what makes it good
yeah,
in a good way.
yeah, yeah.
I'm also
Yeah,
now
I'm definitely
big
jealous
into
because it's
bourbon.
definitely something I'd like try. And like I said, I could get one from K&L, but I just picking and choosing. Can't Fortunately can't have it all. But
Yeah, absolutely.
one day, and it wouldn't be the first time. Something you sent me in a blind or whatever convinced me that well, I think
I
I'm
don't
worth.
even know how to send this in a blind because it's
Yeah,
it's its own thing almost.
fair enough. Sometimes you just got to put one of the like I've done in the port before. Just here's 4 drams that just don't make any sense, but
I just want you to try these. Go.
yeah, pretty much. Yeah.
Yeah. All right.
Okay.
Cool.
Let's move on to our final category. We are
Final
at
category.
a 2-hour mark here, probably a little less with editing, but let's see, best Scotch whiskey. So we've got some interesting choices here, and this is gonna split everybody because it's where are you at? Where it's just a very diverse set of bottles. So we have the Annock 24-year-old. I think this is the most expensive bottle in the entire thing.
I
It's
am I'm surprised and impressed that it made the
yeah.
cut.
It's known it's known to be one of the better like, if you wanna talk value, both from the age statement and quality at an more expensive level, Anno 24, I think, is just
It's
universally
really good.
thought to be the king of that kinda category.
It's really good.
This is the perfect example of it doesn't have to be cheap to be great value.
Yep.
24 years old, 46%, 150 pounds. We have Ardnamurchan mentioned once again. This is their cast strength single malt release. They have dropped all of their kind of date codes and stuff, so it is just the AD cast strength release. This one is 58.3%, 65 pounds. We have the Ben Romick cast strength single malt, 50% plus, and this is 69 pounds. We do have our other mention of Isla, although it is not peated. This is the Boonhaven 12 cast strength, which is 50% plus at 78 pounds. The Kilkerran 16-year-old, I'm pretty sure they are referring to the 2023 release because the 2024 is either not released yet or maybe like just came out. I'm not
Yeah.
sure. In the UK, it's definitely not here in the States yet. So this will be last year's my whiskey of the year last year. So guess which one's probably going to get selected for me here. That's 46% at 75 pounds. And
Mhm.
the Lechic 18-year-old single malt, 46.3% at 100 pounds. Thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, these are all good. Again, I was actually kind of going back and looking. Um, I was looking to see if Ardnamurchan showed up in every possible category that it could, and I
Yeah.
think it does. If you count McLean's nose and Adelphi.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah,
I
that's true.
think
Yeah.
it's in every possible category it can be, which is interesting.
It is a yeah, it is a loved distillery, and Adelphi's get rewarded for their work there and with the blend with McLean's Nose. So
But
it
yeah,
is.
again, it's good stuff. But again, just not quite there in terms of best for me yet. Like the Benromics are always insane. I've not had a like I've had a lot of store pick like 10-year-old cask strengths for
Yeah,
Benromic.
that's what we get in the States. We don't get what's pictured here.
Yeah.
These don't come to the States like their standard the vintage releases. I ordered one overseas. I've got another one coming with my Christmas present. So it's because I wanted, even though we just got um some single barrel, some first fill bourbon barrels that landed here at K&L. I picked those up.
Mhm.
Uh, I can never have too much cask strength Ben Romick. So but yeah, that is a true. We don't get these. We get like these other single casks.
But so like these are all I can't fault really any of these. I've had an Anac 24. It's gone, but it was delicious. Especially the later Bunnahoven cask strengths have been delicious. That first, I have the 2021, which was a little odd, but then I think they kind of righted the track with the later ones.
Did you
Last
have
year's,
the 23? Because I
I don't have the 23. I have the 22. I
okay.
have the 21 and the 22, and I've tasted the 23.
Okay.
Um,
Yeah, I haven't bought one yet. I could have bought the 23, and I I just didn't. Yeah, it was
yeah,
because I saw some reviews that it was like not as good as the 22, but better than the 2021. So I was like, again, making choices. And that was probably even like before I was really doing like the channel like
yeah.
hardcore. I think it was out like when I was doing the channel, but so I was like, well, maybe I'll wait for the next one that like gets like pops off in terms of like
Yeah, although
releases.
I would suggest that at least based on my experience, when they say like the 2022 was just like a sherry bomb, right? Because like that's what the Benhaven 12 is kind of like. I think you might actually like a little bit less sherry potentially. So
Okay, yeah,
um,
I remember I gave the 2022 was said it was cast strength, but Nevis 12 or Bunnahabhain 12.
Benhaven 12, yeah, it's,
I gave
it's,
the
it's definitely
Bunnahabhain
much more
12
of a sherry bomb.
fantastic score. Yeah. So
Um, so yeah, I could see myself voting for any of these, maybe sans Art American at any given day.
yeah,
Um, so I don't know if I'm gonna necessarily commit to one in this exact moment.
right.
Maybe if I had to pick one today, I might just to applaud the notion, vote for the Anac 24.
Yeah,
Um, but yeah, I think the Kilkerran 16 will and deserves to win.
yeah. The Ben Romick, the vintage releases there. If you substitute just cast strength Ben Romick,
Yeah, for
then that becomes a much tighter race. Like I said, we'll see. I do have a new one on the way, but I don't know if I'll be able to dig into that one too much when when the voting closes here. So if I vote for that, I'll have to either vote on the bottle of the vintage that I had a couple years back, or just Ben Romick in general. But yeah, the Kilkerran 16, last year's 2023 release, uh, it was my end of the year whiskey of the year. This is encompasses kind of that time frame. So
mm,
uh, that's such a good bottle of whiskey. The Lechic 18 is no slouch either. Uh,
yeah,
in
absolutely.
terms of, especially if you're in the UK and you want availability and affordability and age statement and all those things, I could absolutely see a lot of people voting for the Lechic 18. Good to still see that make the list. Uh, but yeah, the Kilkerran 16 from last year is a phenomenal whiskey. I have not I have not owned a bottle of Annoc 24, although I've had drams of it, and it's very good. And I don't know why it's not always available. Like you kind of have to like stumble on it, and then impulse buy $100 or $250 bottle of whiskey. So it's some sometimes if that wasn't where my mind was, and like again, it kind of making choices, right? So, but it
Mhm.
definitely belongs on the shelf if you can swing the price and you are able to get one. So, alrighty.
Yeah, very cool.
One interesting thing about the best whiskey is Springbank 10 didn't get nominated this year. I believe it was eligible, but it
Mhm.
looks like maybe the voters just said that no, Springbank is because there's no Springbank product outside of the Kilhoman or the Campbelltown Lock.
Yeah.
Um, I've called Campbelltown Loch Lomond and now Kilhoman for some reason. I know it does. I don't know why my brain works the way it does, but uh, yeah, the only Springbank product, the only mention of Springbank here is the Campbelltown Lock. So that is an interesting point, given that they were retired from one of the categories or on hiatus for one of the categories, and that knocked them out of the best Scotch whiskey as well, which it doesn't always get I think it usually gets nominated, but it won last year, but that was the only year that it has won, I think.
Yeah, I believe it was nominated one other year. It did not win, I think. But yeah, I did not study the results either. So, um,
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I've got them up. I just have to keep checking.
yeah,
Yeah.
and I wonder if, and again, you can maybe kind of pick and choose whether or not this is or how big of an impact this had. But I know Roy did mention that when he sent the lists of to the contributors, they included how many times each thing had been nominated previously and whether or not it had won or not. Like like when the list was sent for them to vote on, they could see how many times it had won and or been nominated.
Yeah.
I
Gotcha.
think to discourage them from picking them again, kind of seemed because they wanted more. They were looking for ways to add more variety. But I would think in other categories that didn't have any effect. There are also some odd things missing.
Yeah.
Yeah, you wonder what
I
that did.
on one hand, I like that. On the other hand, kind of don't. Like, if you're the best whiskey, you should win the best whiskey. But this this whole thing, like I said, isn't necessarily that's not necessarily the goal, just to crown the king or anything like that. It's really just to recognize the stuff that's really good. Everyone knows that Springbank 10 is good. So again, I'm not gonna cry over it. I think it's fine.
I completely agree. I will say I do have to think that there was a level of concern raised when half of the categories had the same winner 3 years in a row. 'Cause
Yes.
there are four trifectas in 9 categories,
Yeah.
which is that has to be kind of concerning to some
Yeah.
degree.
Yeah. Well, most people like aren't when they buy a bottle of whiskey, like how long on average does an enthusiast have one particular bottle of whiskey
Oh
on
yeah,
their
years
shelf?
usually,
Yeah, at least probably a
or
year.
at least 6 months, if
Yeah,
not.
yeah.
It depends what your collection
Yeah,
level
it
is.
depends on what your collection is. It depends on how many you keep around. If you're There's a lot of people out there that keep a smaller rotation going on.
Mhm.
Uh, how often do you rebuy the same bottles, that sort of thing? For you and I, it takes us a long time to go through bottles. I don't rebuy stuff immediately, very frequently, just because there's other stuff to try. So it's kind of hard to, like I said, there's a lot of these bottles that I've drank before, but it was 2 years ago or something like that. Is that vote still relevant? I don't know, but I think most people will count that. So they will continue to use that reference point for what's the best. And you're going to get these repeat winners because it moves pretty slow. And part of the reason it moves slow is because a lot of this stuff, because it's not independent bottlings and they're not single barrels and that sort of thing, they're consistent products. They're not going to change drastically from year to year in most cases. And people are going to be referencing the same bottle,
Experience.
year after year. So that is the benefit of like some of the other spirit tasting competitions, even though if they're legitimate or not, right? You have to submit a specific sample of whiskey, bottle of whiskey, and the judges are tasting it right there, comparing everything in the moment. And, it's a little bit more straightforward where, yeah, people are drawing upon nostalgia, what the last time they had it was,
Yep.
what the bottle they have, when that was actually bottled and
Yeah,
created.
just a whole mix of experiences and opinions.
Yeah. And so 9 categories, 6 different options. That's a lot. That encompasses a lot of different whiskey. Obviously, with a few of the categories not even being bottles, so just entire distilleries or brands.
Yep.
So it's tough to keep up and to feel confident about what you're voting for year after year, but it's not supposed to be that serious. Again, this is more just a recognition from the overall community. Let me switch us back here since we'll be wrapping it up to there we go. Yeah, just more of a recognition of the distilleries and the brands that people have come to trust over time. And we don't have to agree with them. We know there's some missing that we would add. I'm sure there's some that you would add as well. And there's some bottles on here that you can't believe how they would ever possibly make the list. Although I don't think that. I think everything that's on the list is at least you get it, right? Even
Yeah.
if there's some things that I might not particularly love, that's totally fine. But anything else you want to add about the OSWAs? Anything I missed before we kind of wrap this?
No, I think one way or another, I think we kind of covered everything that I was thinking. Just glad that we have this. Something to talk about, something to help new drinkers into the scene and new hobbyists kind of their head wrapped around it. It is a lot. It can be definitely daunting to get into.
Yeah, it is meant to be, I think, fun and enjoyable and generally a positive thing. Obviously, people are always going to nitpick. They don't see their favorite stuff on there. They're going to dismiss it. But this is the most honest attempt at something like this. I look at it as being ours, the whiskey communities to
Yep.
make of it what we will. I hope they do continue to tweak the process, the nation process, the voting process, whatever it is, however it works, the categories themselves. I don't know what the right answer is. Like I said, I never would have volunteered to join a project like actually trying to shape something like this.
Start it. Yeah.
You're just it is
Wow.
a labor of love, and you probably have to have a pretty thick skin for some of the stuff that you're when you're just doing your best to do something that you think is valuable. But I respect it. We'll see. Maybe next year I'll see if
Why?
I don't know. I'm not sure what the process is. I'm sure it sounds like there's some criteria, and if you meet it, you're eligible to participate in the nomination process and whatnot. All right, everybody. Well, thank you again for joining, and yeah, vote in the OSWAs. Get involved. Let us know what your sticking point is for this. What bottle the nominations miss, or did they nail it? What would you vote for? Let us know in the comments. And yeah, maybe we'll get back around to doing something else like this again at some point here this fall. Not really sure. These tend to be kind of seat of the pants, anyways. Just you guys talking whiskey. So we
We'll figure
appreciate you for
something out.
sticking around. And until next time.
Subscribe if you haven't yet. We're
Yeah.
almost at 500.
Yeah, we're just a handful away. Maybe we'll even be there by the time this video goes live. So, yeah, definitely hit sub. I doubt anyone's listening at this point. Just being real.
There's
All right, everyone. Thank you.
that one guy out there. We
Yeah,
appreciate you.
Thank you, guy. You're a buddy. Talk to you later.
You're a real one.
Bye. Ended it like a phone call. Bye.